This is Becky Gromlich with the Watercolor Classroom and Tuesday's Watercolor Tips. Today, it's the season for Christmas and winter, and so we're going to paint a Christmas winter card. I really like realistic painting, and that's what I normally do, but I've also become addicted to, fallen in love with, the bouquet effect. And so I'm going to incorporate that and see how I can do with getting a realistic look and a bouquet effect. The first thing I'm going to do is get my whole paper wet. This is a very soft brush. It's a Golden Talkon. And I'm going to get it all the way to the edges. And then I'm going to get my background in. I've mixed rust, blue, and gamboge. And I'm wanting a background that looks snowy, but also subdued somewhat. Well, that first was I want a subdued look, and yet the idea of snow happening in the background. It needs to be dark enough that the frosty grasses will show, and it needs to also be dark enough for the bokeh to show. And now a little bit of the blue up here in some of the places. I'm just going right over this birdhouse because it'll be dark enough that it'll be fine. And now we need to dry that. Green color. And I want some of these to look like they're way in the distance. This is a dagger brush, very handy for things that you want to look far away. And I'm doing these back here before the paint is dry. The water is dry, so that you get the idea that they're far away. Now I'm ready for my bouquet effect. And I'm going to use, my favorite method of doing this is with just a brush and a stencil. And there's ways to make sharper edges on your bouquet, but I kind of want a softer look with this painting. Today I'm just going to be using a stencil brush that's wet with clear water and a circle stencil. And this makes the softest kind of bouquet. You can get sharper edges doing other methods. But I'm going for that more natural look. And usually somewhere where the light's hitting, there's some that are quite large. If you look at photography, you'll see it. So you need a stencil brush. This small size is very handy. A stencil and water. And then you do varying sizes of these all over. You can do 2 at a time, and it's good to overlap them. It looks more natural that way. So you can even do 3 if you get on the different rows, only that I got on top of another bouquet. All right. And this is just fun. It's especially when you're doing realistic paintings, they tend to be a little bit more intense, even though that might be what you love. It's what I love. And these are very relaxing. You almost cannot mess them up. Now, I usually do 2 at a time like that, and then I dry off my stencil too. Have as many as you think you need, you go and dry your paper again. And you might notice that some I scrubbed off more than others so that they look like they're at different levels. I'm mixing quinacridone rust with a little bit of ultramarine. And you can get nice grays and browns with that. And that's still pretty dark, and I don't want this back part to be really really standing out. And actually I'm going to make it fade as it gets down here into the grasses, because there's a lot of grasses in front of it. And because it's going off the page down here, and I don't want it to just take the eye off. And so I'm gonna swap up a little bit of that and just have it kind of fade into here. And under here, I even want more blue, so it's a grayer color, grayer brown. Because this is the side that's, the light is not hitting as much. And now the front. I'm going to be using quite a bit of bleed-proof white on this. It makes painting them a lot faster. And it also is whiter than the paper. And when you're doing snow, it's just nice to have something that's very, very white. Now the snow, we're going to start with the bleed-proof white. This is bleed-proof white. And when you use it, you want to have a very, very clean brush. Because once you contaminate your bleed-proof white, it's pretty hard to get it back. It spreads into all of it. So that's what I'm getting, and I'm putting it on my tray, making a little puddle. And I want a bit of a dry brush, so I'm drying my brush on my sponge so that I can have a little bit of a dry brush to make these. There we go. Just using the side of my brush, it gives that wood look. Looks like it has snow on it. And it looks like this might have been painted at one time and the paint wore off, which is what I'm going for. Now we're going to put the snow on. And I'll do some shadowing in the snow, but first thing is just to get it on and get that dry before we can get on to that step. For the actual hole that the bird can climb in, I'm using quinacridone rust and ultramarine blue. I've just added a lot more blue so that it has the gray look. This front part of the snow definitely would have some of that teal color in it. And since it's next to the birdhouse, it would probably have little bits of brown. And we'll soften that top edge, because even though there's the snow going around a corner, you don't tend to have sharp edges on snow. Some little bits of brown over here too. And then right in the middle, we'll we'll put something like as if there was a bit of a dip in the snow. And soften that too. Now we're going to put the grasses on. So I'm going to once again mix a green. I want a subdued color. I'm going to use my dagger for these. It just holds a lot of water and you can go a long ways. And you can do the short ones too. So this one comes right across here. I've lost my pencil line. And then there's one that comes across, curves this way. And those will have some snow on. I might have to darken this right here. There's some of these that are very fine and some that are more leaf-like. Down here, there's just a lot of grasses, and I'm going to make some wider, some jaggedier, and then we're going to have something with some branches. There'll be a few. Now with my round number 8, I'm going to do some of my bleed proof white. I'm going to clean my brush really well, refresh my puddle of bleed proof white. And some of these are going to have snow. Now this one, I want it to look like it comes front. I'm not overly thrilled with all of my grasses and how they turned out, and I'm just going to spray them a little bit and blur some of them up. Perhaps put a bokeh in front of some of them, a little one, two. Places where they just got too dark and need to disappear, like the light is hitting them. I'm not going to make these as bright as the ones that I had in the back. I'm going to keep them at the smaller end. I am going to splatter some snow on it. I want it to be a really fine splatter because it's not a chunky kind of picture. Now, one thing that keeps catching my eye, if there's something that keeps catching your eye, you really should do something about it, is that this spot is just too brown right here. So I'm not going to really do a bokeh because I don't want another circle there, but I am lifting a bit of that brown. And then I will have to dry my paper before I do any more snow because they'll just spread out on that spot otherwise. But I don't want everybody's eye to always be going up to that brown spot. Well, that doesn't seem to be doing it, and so then you go to plan B and you do bokeh anyway, even though you weren't planning on it. And that helps really scrub off some. All right. I just noticed from far away that those splatters are so little that they don't basically show at all. And so I'm gonna get a little bit bigger with my splatters. Because I do, make sure you get your edges. And let's take the tape off. I don't usually sign paintings until they're totally dry and I've had a chance to look at it and do any tweaking that I might want to do. But you should always sign your paintings. And there we have a birdhouse. Oh, I forgot something that I was going to do to make it look a little bit Christmassy. I'm watering down, I have a alizarin crimson mixed with a little bit of red. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to put these berries down. These would be, I would think, like rose hips kind of things. And then there's going to be some in the background in these places that I really wipe up quite a bit. So it's just the suggestion of, yes, there's berries all over the place. I'm going to have these ones be